So let's talk about Hooded Grave Cemetery in Kawasa. Let me know how to say it, guys. Pennsylvania. Also used to be known as Mount Zion Cemetery in Columbia County, Pennsylvania. So mort safes were common in the mid-century in the UK, but they're rarely used in the United States. In fact, Find a Grave thinks that these two hooded graves that exist are the only two in the United States. Let me know if you know of more. So the hooded graves belong to Sarah Ann Thomas Boone and Aseneth Campbell Thomas, who are said to have been sister-in-laws. Sadly, they both passed away within 6 days of each other in June of 1852 in their early 20s. There's also infants buried near them, leading us to believe that at least Aseneth died of complications of childbirth. Sarah was also reported to have had a child around that time. And then there's a third grave of a Rebecca, who was a cousin who also died at the same time. Regardless, that Thomas family had a lot of tragedy in 1 year, losing all these young women in the family and infants. But why do they have these mort safes or hooded graves? So at this point in history, vampires, witches, werewolves were a real fear in some parts of the world, including New England. More than likely, though, they were installed to protect the women buried there from grave robbers, because there was a huge problem during this time in the 18th and 19th century where graves were being opened and the newly buried bodies were taken to deliver to medical schools for training, and they were being paid for it. As SmithsonianMag.com says, the resurrectionists, as they were called, stole bodies from fresh graves, and during this pillaging, they may take other things, but their purpose was to take the bodies and sell them to medical schools. So politicians protected it in the name of the common good. Police looked the other way, and unless forced to take action, they didn't. Lawyers argued that because the previous occupant had vacated the body, its ownership was in doubt. So why bother doing anything? There was no victim, so lawyers contended unless a cemetery sued, which never happened because there were many in cahoots with the resurrectionists, it just went to the side. So another possibility is that the cages were decorative. They show the family's wealth. But why were there only 2 cages and not more? Why weren't the infants caged? Why weren't they protected? Even if it was for animal predation, anything like that. Why didn't they all have cages? So there's a huge, huge question mark on all of it. There would have been more covered, though, if it was for the ornateness. So among the strange origins for the cages that the women were in, people keep going back to the werewolves and witches and back to the resurrectionists. But in the end, we really don't know why these cages are there, why these hooded covers are there on these 2 graves. Now, there used to be a third one. Nobody knows which grave it was on, though. People remember they were there, but they don't know why the third one was there and who took it away. Supposedly it fell down and became in disrepair, and so it had to be discarded, but they don't know whose grave. Questionably, they think it's Rebecca, the third woman, which would make sense because they all were same age-ish, died around the same time. What do you guys think? Why the hooded graves in Pennsylvania?